I live so much of my life on the watershed of going God's way or some other way. And it was the voices of these people that helped push me God's direction. Now, did these people have the same degree of influence on me as my mom and dad? No way. Mom and dad were still up there at number one. But those other voices that echoed my parents' voices helped move me the direction that God wanted me to go and that my parents wanted me to go. That's reality. This is exactly what God says. You know, we really need these additional voices for two reasons. In the early stages of development, this is all about repetitive reinforcement. Kids need to hear the same message over and over and over and over and over and over again. Is this a surprise to any parent? If I've told you once, I've told you
1,000,000 times.
1,000 times. You know why? That's not an exaggeration. It has been 1,000 times. Because when kids are young, they have to hear it over and over and over again before it starts to actually burn on their brain and they get it. It's just the way kids are. They need repetitive reinforcement. But here's what's also true. In later stages of development, this is all about independent verification. I just wanted to say the phrase independent verification for years, and now I get a chance. Because you know what happens when kids start emerging out of childhood and into adulthood in those very awkward years? Middle school, high school, college, you know, in that whole thing. You know what happens? Yeah, I know. They know what mom and dad said, but they're going, but is that the way it really is? I mean, I'm becoming my own person. And I want to know, is that the way that it really is? And that's why, and you know if you've got kids in this age or have had, it's like they start pushing back and you start wondering, they start withdrawing a little bit. And we can start going, oh no, man, I'm freaking out, I'm losing my kids. It's like, no, your kids are growing up. And when they grow up, they got to form their own identity. And is this really me? Is this what I really believe? This is where I want to go. And so they will look to other voices for independent verification. Wouldn't it be awesome if the voices giving them verification were also voices from the community of faith reinforcing what you've been saying? Yesterday, at the Portage Invitational, over 7,000 runners running down at Portage West Elementary School. We're having a little conversation at our tent kind of between races. And one set of parents came up to me and they said, how should our kids be hydrating before a race on a really warm day like this? And I said, yeah, that's not a problem. And I went over it and I said, okay, here, blah, 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 blah. And they said, we thought so. That's what we're telling our kids. I said, great. They said, no, not really, not so great. Because what they did is they looked at this and they said, unless I hear it from Coach, I don't believe that. And I'm going, okay, don't worry. I will go make sure they understand what you just said is correct. And you know, I say, look, don't take it bad. This is just what happens when kids start growing up. It's not that they don't listen to mom and dad, but they're going, you know, I need that little independent verification as to whether or not these guys really have it right. Because somewhere around age 12 to 14, parents get really, really dumb. And then they kind of stay that way for a while. And then once kids start to move through the 20s, they start getting smarter and smarter. And then finally, when they have their own kids, believe me, you'll turn back into a genius. That's the way it works. They just need independent verification. And so for these reasons, it's why it's so important that there are other voices speaking into the lives of moms and other than moms and dads. Grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends, co-workers, older siblings. We need all the voices we can get in the community of faith, reinforcing and independently verifying the values and the principles that lead to life. That's how God said it works. And it's one way we parent beyond our capacity. In fact, I suggest 2 action steps off of this that we all should take. The first action step is this: take advantage of strategic partnerships. Take advantage of opportunities to allow your children to hear other voices speak faith values into the lives of your kids. Right now, that is happening outside this room, across across the hall in the gym down the nursery. It's happening in the cafeteria with our students. And as parents, we are very wise. We are tapping into one of God's principles when we take our children and we say, I'm going to put you in places where you can hear other voices that will help you to remember and help you to embrace that which is eternally true. And I would encourage you greatly to not take that lightly, because it's part of God's plan for helping us all to parent beyond our capacity. Because if they're just hearing it from you, or predominantly just from you and very little others, the chances of them getting it go substantially down. Listen to the results of a study that was done by the Lifeway Research Group. It said these words: teens who had at least one adult from church make a significant investment in their lives were far more likely to keep attending church through college and adulthood. More of those who stayed in church for the long term, by a margin of 46 to 28%, said 5 or more adults in church had invested time in them personally and spiritually. It makes a huge difference. So bring them to things that are part of the community of faith to do it. Beyond that, cultivate friendships and spend time with other adults about in your own stage of life that can help know and speak into the lives of your children as well. So important to do. So there are other adults that your kids grow up knowing and respecting who can speak into their lives. Take advantage of strategic partnerships. Make them a priority. And here's the second and final action step. Become a strategic partner. It's so huge. The responsibility is ours. How many people do you know right now that are afraid of what the future holds? Most people I've talked to are. Economically, we don't know. Politically, we don't know. We got terrorism out there. We've got, oh my goodness, we don't know. Our culture seems to be, ripping apart, and it seems to be disintegrating, and there's uncertainty everywhere. And virtually everyone I talk to some level says, I'm afraid of the future. What can we do to try to help the future look better and actually turn out well? What can we do? May I suggest to you that the most powerful thing we can do is we can shape the hearts and minds of the people who will write the future. And the more young people we have managed to raise up who in the future are the ones who can embrace it and influence and change it, the better we have done. And our biblical mandate to leave that kind of legacy and affect a more positive future. And so we need to say, not only am I going to take advantage of the partnerships, I'm going to become a strategic partner. Yeah, let me tell you what that means. Yeah, you know what? I'll take a turn in Discovery Land or Promised Land or Extreme Zone. I'll help with the student ministry. I will do those kinds of things because as a community of faith, we are determined that we're going to all parent beyond our capacity, that we together are going to be voices that speak into the lives of the next generation. Those things that will heal them and guide them and serve them well when it becomes their time. And I realize that nothing up there looks particularly brilliant, but both of those things there have the power to change. So what kind of church are we going to be? Are we going to be a church whose legacies we've changed the future because of the impact we've had on the hearts and minds of those who will write the future? That's God's idea. What's yours?